This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News, News-Free Dixie for the 21st century.
Judge Brown?
Yes, sir.
It's an honor to have you back on the show, and I just want to get your input about what's going on right now in the world today. So many things to cover, but definitely I want to talk about election news and your thoughts about the first debate and just about the campaign overall.
Well, okay. Ask away.
Yeah, I want to get your take. Like, who won on the first debate between between Hillary and Donald Trump? Who won? You feel?
The media says that Hillary won. I disagree. I consider myself, having had a political science major at UCLA and a physics minor, and to be as smart as anybody they put up there to be a talking head, and I disagree with their conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
I think Trump actually got it. He said stuff that will resonate with his constituency, and he threw some traps out there for them that they're afraid to touch. In other words, he said some things that if they check out will prove to be valid. I think he's done a pretty good job for round one of the three-round fight, setting his opponent up. She's been playing dirty, but if he brings stuff up and starts trotting out what she said during her husband's administration back in the 90s about young black men, that's 18 years ago. And a whole lot of the people she's trying to reach are, you don't remember what some presidential candidate was saying when you were in kindergarten or the second grade.
Right.
It's not going to be pretty. He's saying stuff that mainstream America wants to hear. Sometimes a lot of people think. In other words, you want to call somebody a stupid moron or an idiot, but we've had this thing from the Reagan era that says you have to be kinder, gentler. That got taken off by George H.W. Bush and pushed to an absurd extreme. They call the current president the drone ranger for all of the adversaries he's had done in by drone. The president's going to be a person who will do nasty stuff. Kill people on his order, jeopardize and risk other people on his orders, have a great deal to do with what happens when it comes to putting food on the table, getting a vacation, keeping your mortgage going, or what kind of car you can drive and what kind of job stability you have. I don't think the consequences of being out on the streets broke, out of a job, losing your mortgage, or losing all of your savings are pleasant. So why do the people that we supposedly want to manage all of this have to be nice and pleasant about stuff that's nasty? You see, tell us how you feel. But anyway, I think probably this is the sorriest slate of candidates that I've seen in my life. I mean, really. Hillary's supposed to be experienced, but I don't call being elected one time in an election that was purchased for you by Goldman Sachs, that is the U.S. Senator out of New York, where she carpetbagged in reverse coming from Arkansas, in being a singularly lackluster Secretary of State who made many bad calls. She traveled a lot, but so what? I guess she got to do a lot of shopping on those emails that we don't get a chance to see through the servers, so that doesn't exactly make you experienced. On the other hand, running a big businessmen often don't make good politicians because they're always thinking about the bottom line, and sometimes there's something beyond the bottom line. Now, in terms of that, I would point to Henry Ford. Henry Ford was a racist bigot. did not like black people. He sent Adolf Hitler a birthday present every year all the way through 1944. But he had the idea that is more in keeping with what we need. Hey, look, if I pay my employees a decent wage and I employ everybody that can make a good vehicle, then what happens is I'll sell more cars and they can buy the product that they make, and that's good for everybody. Now, in other words, you got a racist who is responsible for hiring a whole lot of African Americans that got out of just a little while before that Reconstruction South and went north to Motown, Detroit. You got a lot of prosperity for the country. And that's the kind of thing that has a colorblind complexion. It's green, but everybody can spend green if you have green. And right now, I am very concerned about those people who are crooked, like most of our local politicians, Republican and Democrat, who are bought off, sold their souls for petty gain, have weird sexual practices, who compromise themselves, who have too many side children that are down at juvenile court where they get extorted through that horrible agency down there. And they don't represent this community very well. If you looked at all of the lard that's put out through the city and the county budget that they approve of, that goes to certain select interest, you'll see that the city and the county have a lot of money that is wasted as far as the ordinary person is concerned, because it goes to, quote, the important people who are perceived as being such because they make sure that the election officials, the elected officials, the appointed officials who get paid a very low rate of pay wind up getting comfortable recompense or gain because they get a lot under the table and now above the table. That's one of the reasons I say, Bernie, you're right. We should have seen copies of the transcripts for those speeches. Are there speeches that actually got made, or did somebody show up and say hi and get a $220,000 check each time because that was a bribe? You see, we want to talk about Trump's taxes. It's no law that says you have to furnish copies of your taxes. What you do have to do is show your conflict of interest posture. And Trump's filed that. She's filed that too. And if we want to talk about tax returns, why don't we bring hers up and her husband's up when he got to disclosing them when he ran for president the first time he got elected, and we see that she paid taxes on about $200,000, a little less than $200,000 less as her salary from that law firm for about 3 of the last years she was with them. He had been 5-term governor, receiving, I think, the 3rd lowest rate of gubernatorial pay in the country. And then he becomes president, which is another civil paid job by the taxpayers. She gets a stipend as first lady. And then she gets elected as a senator, which is, again, civil service pay, so to speak. And she is Secretary of State, which is paid by the public. And in the 3.5 years since she resigned that position, she's become worth $28 million, and she hasn't had a job. Where did it come from? Well, we know she got $16 million for 14 months worth of speaking. There is no speech whatever you can make worth $220,000 a pop, except it is now a legal way to bribe somebody or reward somebody. So there have been politicians that have made lucrative amounts become multimillionaires after they got out of office as a favor for what they did to those behind the scenes while they were in office. Ronald Reagan went to Japan, and senile as he was, suffering from dementia, he got $5 million just for going to Japan for speaking. Made 3 speeches, 4 speeches, and then he toured Europe, and they paid him off for what he did for them. See, that's the pattern. So you got somebody else. He said some things that are somewhat crude, but what are you getting? Either the person that's part of that elite where all of the money goes to, or somebody that's a dog for that group and goes out on a long leash to go chase all the rest of the cows and the herd into a convenient corner so they can be, or the sheep into a corner so their wool can be sheared. So you got a bad choice. So, the other thing is we don't actually elect presidents. We elect an electoral college who selects the president. Usually they go for the people that selected them. In other words, they say, I will vote for this, that, and the other candidate most likely, but they don't have to. We've got corruption. The American electoral system is one of the most corrupt in the world. CNN's doing this little lightweight airhead, bobblehead, talking head, read the news instead of reporting on it. Fox, too, and basically what it's about is they say there's no hacking of the voting system. They're talking about online hacking, like you go sit down at your computer, but they're not talking about taking a smartphone or an iPad, putting in a code, and standing 5 feet away from an election machine and getting what you want put into it through the slot, where you get the cards. They'll pick up your signal, and you can hack them that way. Once hacked, they're always hacked. And they go around trying to be polite, talking about that hack is programming flaws. It's not programming flaws. It's just evidence that somebody hacked into them at one time. You got Bush stealing the election from Gore in Florida. Turns out when everybody counted it, CNN, Fox, Associated Press, USA Today, everybody went through all of the data, and when they counted each and every single vote, turns out, guess what? Gore got 62+% of the vote in Florida. He's supposed to have gotten the Electoral College vote and be the president. However, they had a couple of Democrats down in Broward County who were on the take, and they certified that these ballots, which went to Broward County and other heavily Democratic areas, were correctly printed when in fact they were off register, and then the machines hadn't been cleaned, so the punched out holes stacked up. They started causing problems with the entire process, and guess what? They were made by DeBold, the same one that makes the ones we use, and we're the only, what shall we say, well, there's only one other county in America, and that's a neighboring Tennessee county that still uses those machines. So guess what? A whole bunch of nothing by know-nothing ignoramuses who want to provide entertainment rather than perhaps entertainment, in the form of entertaining enlightenment. But it is what it is, and we buy into it, and there's a saying about the American system. the citizens get the representation they deserve. So we've fallen a long way from being focused, having a work ethic, understanding that education gets us somewhere, having goals in mind, dreams that we work toward getting, and just thinking we are entitled to have it because we dream it. It's not a very good picture. If you're a cop, you've got a very dangerous job, but nobody forced you to take it. A lot of us around still walking and breathing, got drafted. Nobody wanted to go, but you went, and you put it on the line, and that's like a soldier saying, hey, it's not right. They're trying to kill me because I'm here in a uniform. It goes with the job. But then again, you've got a situation where do you have police trying to clean up their act so that they don't behave in a fashion like, I guess, the cavalry used to have. The only good engine is a dead engine, and I say that because I'm legally a Choctaw. But, it's all kinds of things bad out there. It's like, everybody gets a participation ribbon, and I guess if these idiots had their way, Usain Bolt wouldn't have 3 gold medals in each of 3 Olympics for the 100 meters, 200 meters, and anchoring the 400-meter relay. He'd get a participation ribbon because the fastest man in the world shouldn't get any more distinction than every other out-of-shape somebody that may wish to go out there and run down the track. See, that's the way we think today. Anything you want to do is do your thing, be all that you can be rather than all that you should be. We forget this. Women have a bunch of children with a bunch of babies' daddies, and they don't know how to be mothers. You've got the standard of beauty that Trump's been getting on about. That's been same standard of beauty for a long time. We got sisters running around, got good souls, but they're not beauty queens. But they think they look Afrocentric, and I'll tell you, I had some African roommates when I was in college, and they wouldn't be considered the fine thing in the village with a bunch of tribesmen either. But you can have a good soul. That's like everybody's not a Usain Bolt.
Right.
Everybody's not a Jackie Robinson. Everybody's not all-pro football player or NBA high-paid star either. So you got to do what you want to do. So there's inner beauty, but let's face it. I think 2 very good examples that everybody should watch is watch the current season for South Park. It's an adult cartoon, and watch the season for Legends of Franklin High School. That's kind of funny in a tragic way. Like one of the main characters is this guy who's a student. He's maybe been in 5 minutes in all of the games in the season. He sits on the bench, and there is a sister that's a straight-A student, but who's a cheerleader. He has fantasies of playing in the NBA, making big professional money, and he neglects his studies, and he hadn't even been in 5 minutes in the whole season. They're like, what's wrong with you, fool? You see. So, and then they got a big, enormous girl who's a cheerleader. She asked, well, how you like my G-string? Because it's sticking outside of her cheerleader tutu, and she weighs like 280 pounds.
Wow.
And she's got 2 buck teeth sticking like fangs on each side of her mouth. And it's like she thinks she's fine. But that's not. Let's face it. See, just because you want it doesn't mean that's what it is. Like, hey, man, I bought this exercise machine. It was lying. It doesn't do anything, man. What do you mean? I bought one, man. It hasn't done nothing, man. It's been sitting over the corner for 4 months. I ain't lost a pound yet. And I've been looking at it most every day. He hasn't been using it.
Right.
You see how that works? It's like you want it, but you got to work for it.
That's right.
Or what you work for isn't going to get you anywhere in the real world. What's up? You haven't been able to keep a job more than two years max in your whole life. Well, I've got to be fine. I got to work out. So you're working out 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. You're not a movie star, but you have no job. What's wrong with you? You see what I'm saying? I go into a high school and I talk to them, or used to anyway. How many of you want to play basketball professionally? Every kid in that school auditorium holds his hand up talking about he wants to be a pro basketball player. You're in the 11th grade and you 5 feet 6. What makes you think you're going to play pro basketball? You got some super steroid, young man. Why don't you pay attention to your books? But then look at Magic Johnson. He always will tell you that, playing basketball is a way to get an education and maybe get a stake so you can do something with the education you have and make something out of yourself in life. Or take Michael Jordan. He uses his smarts to be a businessman. He got a stake from playing basketball. But he always had something in mind. And then you have Memphis State, University of Memphis, until they got that brother as a coach for 25 years. All those brothers that played in basketball for University of Memphis, only 3 of them had ever graduated.
Wow.
Just used up their eligibility for nothing. You see, so it's all about what you do with your circumstances. And right now, it's like we are where we are because we have abdicated our responsibility of being educated and informed citizens who are active and will get out and do something instead of sitting in front of the TV set and looking at what we look at all the time, all day long, Saturday and Sunday. You walk into some place to eat and they have 5 screens because you can't leave it alone that long. We know all that, but we don't pay any attention, and we don't realize that our elected officials who are responsible for overseeing the economy know nothing about it, so they get something in their pocket so it'll be more comfortable for them. And what they do is let the folk that have turned the whole bloody thing into a video game that they know how to play and gotten around and about on, we get ripped off. 3% of the country gets 95% of all the game that comes around. You see, we don't pay attention to this. But we love it. You get somebody saying, oh, maybe we can subsidize junior college so you can get a 2-year degree. No, we need free 4-year universities and colleges. We used to have them until St. Ron the Reagan got in. Now you got the People's Republic of China, $1.32 billion people, rather, and everybody has to go to school as far as they can or work in a rice paddy. And they've got a lot of educated people. Meanwhile, us, we'd only have that 3.2 billion, 0.32 billion, 320 million versus their 1,360,000,000 people. And they're sending everybody to college, and we're making it as difficult as we can for somebody to go to college. And for us, the college is just an extension of what high school used to be. So they've hacked into all of our computer programs. And this is the country that's supposed to have invented the computer and the internet. But they do it better than us.
Wow.
You got troubleshooting it routes you to Calcutta, and somebody from India is talking to you. So it's like we just let this go. And we need to focus. You go to school and the teacher, go to visit a high school or junior high, and the English teacher can't speak English. I'd be ready to go out on the back porch to talk to the basketball coach. We'd be ready to eat some of that chicken. You got through college and you don't know how to speak, let alone write English. You know, right now in the school system, they no longer teach kids how to write longhand. Everybody's got cell phones. Why do they need to learn how to write longhand? Because what if the things break down?
Wow.
You know, just the idea. What's wrong? Well, my cell phone's off. You didn't write any of this down? No, I mean my cell phone. You didn't take out a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and try to write down what I've been telling you? You asked me? No, see, I got to get my phone. No, well, forget it then. I'm not going to say it one more time.
So you think that a lot of these so-called technological advancements make people lazy, that make folks lazy, intellectually lazy?
They're intellectually lazy because some people say it's wrong to make people compete. It will hurt their self-esteem. Everyone should be rewarded for being part of it. A lot of junior high schools and middle schools, they won't have class elections more because somebody's feelings may get hurt because they didn't get elected class president. Well, everybody can't be fearless leader, you know? Everybody gets a participation ribbon. No, all this money gets spent. There need to be first, second, third place ribbons, and if you're not good at that, find something else to do. What's going on here? Why all the traffic? Well, all of the children that have to go to soccer practice. I went out here to this set of soccer fields they have on Forest Irene at Shelby Drive. I went out there, and they had like 25 games going on. And I don't think they had but 3 of them where boys were involved. What happened to the boys? I stayed up in Aspen. I can ski pretty well. Anything on the mountain, I'll try. Double, black, off-piste, you name it. Used to ski race. But you go into the ski school, they've got 23 posters up there, and only one of them's got a boy in it. I can ride horses. I had 16 horses at one time, English and Western. You don't see a boy in a riding school. All girls. Take your daughter to work week. What happened if you take your son? They've had to take your daughter to work week for 45 years. I've never heard of one take your son to work week. They teach school now in a way that's good for little girls, but not very good for little boys. You know, it's wrong. A school principal, retired, was telling me the other day about a situation that she encountered. Mother came in complaining one time because the teacher was being too strict on her son. Well, she did what she did, and the retired principal recounts, I ran into the woman not long ago. How's your son doing? Ain't doing too well. Because, why? He never learned that there were some things you had to do rather than just what you wanted to do. That Montessori theory of child rearing. The children should be allowed to take what they want to take when they want to take it, and they shouldn't have any structure. It thwarts their development. Well, hell, the world's structured. What do you do about that? All of a sudden, you get 20 years old, you're supposed to be able to make an immediate transition, and you have no training? And see, it's crazy.
Right.
Can't spank a kid. Slap to the butt, pull out the belt, and 2 or 3 strokes, or a razor, a switch. Thinking about, I got it with a razor strap 2 or 3 or 4 times, 5 to 6 times a month by the boys' vice principal at the junior high school I went to in California. You just a few seconds, and you get the idea, you straighten up. Oh, nowadays it sounds like a convention child psychologist. Mother's over there begging the child for 45 minutes to please do right so mommy doesn't get disturbed. I went into a Rafferty's. I'm sitting there eating, and they've got children in there who are running all over the restaurant. The mothers are sitting there just yakking with each other, and the children are out of control, going in trying to take stuff off of other people's plates, running amok, running into the waiting staff, and they don't think anything's wrong with it. Children standing up on the chairs at the table trying to climb up on the damn table, and the mothers aren't paying any attention because they're yakking about some boyfriend they don't like what the boyfriend's up to. Like, these people puppies grow up. What are they going to grow up to be? It's crazy. And then we get this situation where we just let these demagogues get in control of what's going on. We don't pay attention to them, and it's supposed to be rough, and now all of a sudden we can't even focus on which one of them is giving us a straight deal. We want somebody who's nice. Oh, he's being nasty. Or she's being snide. We don't trust her. Or he's too rude and he's too crude.
Oh, that doesn't make any difference. What it's all about is, are you effective in doing your job? Nowadays the media doesn't deal with people who do excellent. They just want to find somebody who has done something good and find something nasty so they can tear them down. I run into that. They aren't interested in, you got a man-up program that when you were on the bench for 10 years, statewide recidivism rate was 78 to 80%. In your courtroom, it was only 18 to 20, and you reduced recidivism and what you did. No, they want to know that you got a diabetic problem and you may have something in, oh my God, what's that got to say? What has he done wrong because he got sick? Or on the other hand, you got somebody else who's a celebrity who's been doing good stuff, and then you want to get on his case because you got some crazy little groupies from 35 years ago that are old wrinkled has-beens, and they feel like somehow or another doing what they wanted to do shouldn't have been allowed. Somebody should have stopped them, and now they've been thwarted. It's crazy.
Wow.
Do we have any black leadership in this country? No. Not any. Kids don't know what to do. And then every time they do it, like look at the Million Man March. It was a great thing. 20 years later, they had the 20-year anniversary of the Million Man March. And you looked at it, and out of every 20 people, 18 of them were women. What happened to the man part? You have got a culture in this country where it's anti-masculine. Everybody's supposed to be Michael Jackson androgynous. And you can't, California's got these handouts they send home with the students to the parents. Never try to gender orient your child. Never tell him act like a man or act like a lady or act like a woman. Let them find out what they want to do. Like, what in the world? If you want to do that behind closed doors, that's your business. You got a right to. But I mean, there's yin yang. You want to violate that principle? Do so at your peril. I ask people this, and I've been asking them this thing for 50 years. Somebody told me to ask it if to choose who I hung around with when I was still in high school. And what it is, you there?
All right, yes, sir.
Okay, here's what it is. You are coming back from hunting 500 years ago, 5,000 years years ago, doesn't make any difference. You can be Europe, Africa, America. You can be Native American, you can be African, European. Doesn't make any difference. And you got an antelope or a deer or something to eat you've killed across your shoulders, and you're coming back so your family and your village can eat. And you become aware of the fact that there is a war party from an enemy village about to fall on your people. There's nobody looking. Do you give the alarm so your people can become alerted? Do you attack from the rear? Or since nobody's looking, do you turn around and run? So I get answers to the question, well, that's difficult, but I guess I'd have to go ahead and at least try to warn the village, or, maybe you might have to give your life. But I get these other people who say, well, you turn around and run. You said nobody's looking, who would know? Well, wouldn't the most important witness in the world know? Who's that? Yourself. How could you live with yourself? So those people you try to avoid. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Or you only deal with on a certain level. The ones that'll say, well, man, you got to do what you got to do, man. Sometimes you got to do what's right. You see, they encourage the one where it goes, it's okay to be a coward. No, it is not. That's the worst, the most disgusting thing you can be is a coward. Guilt is bad. No, it's not. It's very good. It keeps people self-focused. It keeps people doing the right thing, and it keeps people from doing the wrong thing. But you see, some of these things that develop over tens of thousands, 20,000 years, they develop for a reason. And then you want to undo them because in the last 30 years, you decided that it wasn't pleasant. See what's going on. I hate to keep preaching the same thing.
No, it's all right.
Let's get back to the issues you were putting in front of me. I'll pontificate in a minute, brother. And it's Sunday. I'll give you a sermon.
Yes, sir. It's all right. Yeah, actually, but it's like, it's so much you, hold on. It's so much you touched upon in what you were saying about manhood, loss of masculine identity. I know I want to talk about what happened recently in Ferguson. Are you familiar with not Black Lives Matter, but this Ferguson activist named Darrius, who was killed. He was found dead in a burning car, shot in the head, I believe, execution style. And he was a very vocal activist. He came out during the time of Mike Brown, was with the family doing the reading of the verdict, not the verdict, but the decision not to indict Darren Wilson, the officer. And he was very vocal about Black Lives Matter, hijacking the Ferguson movement. Like it was about, black family, black rights, and about Mike Brown. But then the Black Lives Matter movement, the people who with the Black Lives Matter, a lot of their spokespeople are LGBTQ, or lesbians and gays. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro. Wow. So it's a whole lot of that stuff. It's co-optation. The LGBTQ movement that
is questioning, and they are passing stuff around in schools now where they teach the kids in certain states where it's their responsibility to try everything. Now, we went through a period to keep them, from doing irresponsible, unprotected sex, and now they're telling them to go for it to see what they like, which, is a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But deal is they are politically organized, and they have a point that they're pushing, and they're using every opportunity to do it. Black folk, we didn't do that. We got a little bit of good. He got so happy about it. Oh, well, I got mine, forget them. And then we got that one thing that I remember from back in the 60s after we got a lot of black folk in UCLA. The third group we got in, they said, brother, I appreciate your efforts at getting me in school, but I can't afford to jeopardize my career. It's not that I don't appreciate what you've done, but you'll have to go on without me. I will be there with you in spirit. Grab that fool and drag him. In one case I remember vividly, and we confronted the police out there in UCLA, sheriff's departments, university cops, highway patrol. This same fool who had gotten himself elected BSU president in an illegal election so he could have it on his resume, got so scared, he had on gray slacks. He pissed on himself, and you could see that stain going down his left pant leg until there was a puddle of piss around his left shoe.
Wow.
And we had to hold on to him, one on each side, so he wouldn't turn around and run. Made him more afraid of us than he was of the police.
Wow.
But interestingly enough, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Big Lou then, the basketball player with all that basketball money-making future, he was there.
Right.
So you have cowards, and then you have brave people who have physical and moral courage. That's what we need more of. We're losing that. Too many of our educated are the wrong kind now. Du Bois talked about the talented 10th bootstrapping the colored races up. But too often our educated colored are scared cowards who are afraid to stand up to something. You've got an office where you can do some good for your people and make a difference, but you don't because you're cravenly cowardly and you're selfish, and you want to make sure that you get this juicy opportunity downstream in time that you don't want to jeopardize by doing the right thing. So you just become a coward, and you turn your head the other way, and you don't use what the power of your position would allow to correct the wrong. We got a lot of that locally and nationally.
So that would make the loss of Darrius Stewart at the age of 29 so sad, because he was from the streets, but he really cared about the people. He was about community first. And the guy, and also he started pouring out where the money. He was asking folks, where did these folks come from? Where did all their money come from? It's like what Malcolm X did with the Message to a Grassroots about 50-something years ago, where he told us to follow the money. And you see the people behind these so-called leaders that they prop up, the George Soros and people like that, the billionaire white people, the liberals and whatnot.
Yes. They use these colored politicians as fronts. Act through them so we don't have to do it. Let them take the heat. Pay them some chump change. But you see, I'm sorry that the brother bought it, but that's what it's about. Being free is not safe.
Right.
And look at what the country's doing on the national. Land of the free and home of the brave, all of these people, white, black, brown, red, yellow, whatever, who have died, been maimed, suffered one way or another trying to get this Constitution and its promise actualized. And you got a bunch of scared people who, in the name of fear, want to give it all up so they can be safe.
When we think about this prison strike going on, it says the largest prison strike in history, in American history.
You got the largest prison population in American history. Are you surprised that a strike is the largest one in American history?
But it's not getting the so-called mainstream coverage. Those people complaining about it's not getting covered by CNN and NBC, but it's the largest one.
It doesn't. It's all about entertainment. Remember, they want happy news. I want something happy to make me feel good. That's not news, fool. Go turn on a cartoon show. News isn't often happy because it's something you need to know that's out of the ordinary. Something's going wrong, generally. If it's right, they don't talk about heroic young kids saved so-and-so. They say, the children were fleeing in terror. There was an absolute panic. Oh, my God.
You know, I got to ask you about this as well, too. I mean, the Darrius Stewart decision, like the fact that they not going to go out there, was the guy named Connor Schilling with any type of federal charges?
Is it anything surprising about that? You got a corrupt DA, Amy Wyrick, downtown. You got a corrupt system. You got a situation where 24.8% of the registered voters in Shelby County are white, where only 19.1% of the registered voters in Memphis are white, and everybody that runs everything is mysteriously white. You've never had a black DA, you've never had a black sheriff. The voting cheats, yes, that's going on. But, you know, bottom line is you got all kinds of little games to make money at our expense, at our life expense. Are you surprised? They've got enough to indict, and then that whole thing that came out about Schilling allegedly having had a homosexual encounter with Darrius Stewart. You know, that makes it a first-degree murder.
So you think like
says he doesn't have the authority to? Oh crap!
But why? You know, that's interesting. You bring up that angle about him. Cause I remember a couple of years ago, what was a black police officer had an affair with a teenage boy that he killed a couple of years back, and you saying that Darrius Stewart had a homosexual relationship with Connor Schilling?
That's what's supposed to be in that TBI stuff that Schilling's lawyer was trying to get suppressed.
You know what? And why has the media? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Memphis media did a piss poor job, in my opinion, of really covering that case.
Channel 3 is owned totally by the Commercial Appeal. Commercial Appeal also has a half controlling interest in Channel 5. And the bottom line is the Commercial Appeal is an operation controlled by Patricia Harris. Her son was a U.S. Attorney, Terry Harris, who had to leave under a cloud, now is chief counsel for FedEx. He's a snot-nosed little nasty somebody that used to be a prosecutor in my courtroom. An obnoxious little spoiled brat of a kid who detested black folk, a little racist bigot. And they were protecting Kenneth Turner, who was a 7th grade dropout that was running juvenile court, is a money-making proposition off the backs and lives of black families, with the idea of coming up with a coalition, according to what Turner used to say to the press senator all the time, that he was going to set up a coalition between poor black women on welfare and rich conservative whites to run the county. Now, everybody's entitled to representation, rich, white, conservatives, and blacks too, but nobody should be oppressed. And nobody should be used for economic profit at the expense of their own well-being just because of their identification. That's slavery. This is the place at juvenile court, 1963, held the last slave auction in America. That treacherous criminal, that woman that was the last judge before Kenneth Turner, used to auction off babies to celebrities for adoption.
Wow.
They weren't just black kids, they were white ones too, but the point is the same, it's slavery.
Right.
That place is so corrupt. corrupt down there. They ought to tear it down brick by brick, rebuild it, investigate everybody, which is a question. U.S. Attorney, why haven't you looked into it like other U.S. attorneys used to look into black and Democratic people who look cross-eyed and would wind up indicted on trial in front of a jury? Are you trying to get a judgeship? Oh, you're supposed to be a Democratic U.S. attorney and a Republican U.S. senator nominated you for a judgeship? Oh, I bet you're not going to do too much to rock the boat, are you?
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, I think it's like, listen to what you're saying about the voting situation, considering that America has one of the most corrupt election systems in the entire world, and looking at the young people disappointment, the enthusiasm gap that the young people are having to want to vote for Hillary Clinton when they really wanted Bernie Sanders. And you see all these celebrities and people saying, just get with the program. What other things you can suggest to young people to do with their energy and to direct their energy?
They got corrupt. Their energy got corrupted. The Democratic Party National Committee, the DNC, took pointed steps to make sure that the will of the people did not get advanced, and they made sure that Hillary got it. They did everything they could, from putting the Democratic Party debates on nights when nobody was looking or it was up against an NFL game, to make sure that nobody was paying much attention. They misdirected monies. They made things hard. They pulled off little dirty stunts to make sure that Sanders did not get the chance. And a lot of them were talking about, well, he was an independent. Hillary's been a loyal Democrat. Well, she was chairman of the Republican Party at Wesley All-Girls University all through college for 3 years. So where does that make her such a loyal Democrat? She got to stick in Bill Clinton, I guess, and then she decided that a marriage of convenience, since she was from New York, she was going to perhaps follow him down to Dixie. She would deal with being a Democrat. She says, I became a Democrat in 1969. Well, guess what? That's when you graduated from college, same as I did. So what were you doing before that, being a Republican and advocating all of the people that were being black militants, talking about black power, people that were anti-war, people that were for Hispanic power, Native American power, Asian power, and even feminist rights? You were talking about we all needed to be put in jail for being un-American. Oh, that's not what she's saying now.
Wow.
But it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, she was a Barry Goldwater girl too. She was a Goldwater girl, and her father's was a proud Republican.
Who pulled that race card off, and then she campaigned for Tricky Dick Nixon. I am not a crook, Tricky Dick Crooked Nixon.
So, I mean, what were you... I'm sorry, Judge, go ahead.
See, it's like, okay, you know, what is that old saying? You live in glass houses, you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones.
Right.
You know, I always looked at it as I don't think either one of them has a character up on the other, except I'd put it this way. Donald Trump is sitting there at the table scowling with a bottle of poison in his left hand, looking at everybody at the table. Hillary Clinton sitting there grinning at everybody with a bottle of poison hidden in her purse. Which one do you think is most dangerous?
That's a good question. It also is interesting to know that they are also cousins. They're related.
And also for years, Trump sat there. When I sat there, Trump did everything he could to support the Clintons. I wouldn't be surprised, as cynical as I am, if it wasn't a ploy for him trying to either help her, well, not about either, but trying to help her get elected and then surprised at how well he's done.
I know I was reading an article today speaking on Hillary Clinton, like how she's doing pretty good among college-educated white women, and how Donald Trump is doing pretty good among non-college-educated white women. And basically, overall, they are in like a tie for the white woman vote. So I just thought that was fascinating.
What I hear, women will tell me this, but they don't want to be on the record. It says, if you're a woman and you've ever worked for a female boss, you never want to go through that again. And then the feminists don't want to hear that. But see, that's the unsung thing. And a lot of men in America say they think it would be an embarrassment and a disgrace for the U.S. to be run by a woman. See, they call that sexism. But then somebody says, well, if you want to be in this club and play this game, then you got to be able to take the heat that all the rest of the players take.
Right, that's true.
You know, you're dealing with the Middle East, the Russians, the Chinese, North Korea. They're not going to be nice. So can you take the heat? You know, there's a thing about decorum and mannerability. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there. There are a lot of white folk that never like black folk. And our ersatz Negro in the White House, Barack Obama, who has no black American ancestors, but some Johnny Reb Civil War Confederate Army officers as ancestors. You know, he looks like us and whatever he is, but he's a rich man. From that trust fund, his adopted daddy Lolo Sotoro left it. And he's got an interest that's more closely akin to Donald Trump's when he talks about his personal situation. He didn't do anything about putting people back to work, so they need a scapegoat. So they are anti-black now. You know, that's the problem. You put a black man in a position where he's the first there, and if he doesn't break Jackie Robinson or Thurgood Marshall and kick butt, then, you know, they use that as an excuse, never again. So you got Clarence Thomas in there now, and that's a disgrace. You had Thurgood Marshall, you had a winner. So, you know, be careful what you put in. You get a good Negro who's a house Negro, who is an embarrassment to manhood, or do you have a real man in there who's doing what he needs to do to help out those he's connected with, who are oppressed?
Yes, sir.
They talk about the Holocaust in World War II. I think Hitler was disgraceful in killing 7.5 million Jews, but, you know, you got 35 million Africans died in the Middle Passage on the boat. And that's the conservative estimate. Somehow, some put it up to almost 100-some million. You depopulated Africa, but nobody says anything about it. You got a statue downtown Memphis in front of the civil courthouse of Andrew Jackson. He was notorious for burning slaves and then Native Americans to death in wooden stockades. Imprison all of them in the stockade and burn them to death. I've got a direct great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather, and great-great-great-grandmother who died on that Trail of Tears. They were Choctaw, behind that low-down bastard Andrew Jackson, who ordered the Indian relocation. You know, you got Nathan Bedford Forrest statue down there riding herd over his bones in his crypt with his wife in Nat Turner Park, for goodness sakes, on Union Avenue. And he founded the Ku Klux Klan, first Grand Dragon. And then he's the one responsible for that war crime massacre of black troops up at Fort Pillow that he should have been put on a wall and shot for. But they're got his statue down there, and they got a plaque right across the street from the civil courthouse downtown Memphis that says, on this spot, Nathan Bedford Forrest and his partner Maples, whose great-grandson was a chairman of the Memphis Police Association at one time, ran the largest slave trading business in the South and was one of the country's first millionaires.
Wow.
They lionize it. They haven't forgotten it.
And that's that across from the civil court. You said downtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, another thing, you got a problem right there on 3rd Street and Jefferson.
Okay.
Is it Madison? One or the other. Anyway, you see, you got these kind of things. You have these kind of things that nobody wants to get over. They talk about the tragedy of what happened in World War II when 25 million Russians died as a result of Nazi Germany. But then again, you're talking about 35 million Africans died on the boat trying to take them from Africa to America to be slaves. You see, we talk about, oh my God, how horrible in one instance, and we like to gloss it over in the other. You know, this is the same country that bought you, let's get the Indians land by giving them blankets infected with smallpox so they'll get sick and die. How crazy.
It made me
biological warfare.
That's so true, and it made me think about when you brought up Nathan Bedford Forrest and Fort Pillow. I'm doing a group presentation at the National A.L.L convention in Richmond this upcoming week with there's the George Washington, Carter G. Woodson Black History Organization, and we're actually doing a Fort Pillow presentation. And it was one of the people we interviewed was a descendant of one of the survivors of Fort Pillow. The guy we interviewed name is Joe Williams. His great-grandfather was Peter Williams. He was one of the few survivors of Fort Pillow. And Joe Williams, he served in the military for 30 years. He's 83 now, but did not hear about his great-great-grandfather's involvement in the Fort Pillow massacre until 1998. And I had a chance to read the congressional inquiry when they interviewed the survivors as well as the Confederates and other folks involved in the Fort Pillow incident. And you hear some of the horror stories, like people were actually buried alive. Some of the Confederate soldiers bayoneted the eyes out of the black soldiers. People were put in, the wounded and the dying was put in with the dead in piles. One guy was discovered.
Bad.
Huh?
It was bad. I'm very familiar with it. See, there's even a worse crime about Fort Pillow.
Okay.
Ulysses Grant, the commanding general, had ordered the damn thing shut down. It had absolutely no tactical or strategical value. It was set up to guard the river and make it difficult for Union steamboats to go up and down the river. It was totally indefensible from the land.
Okay.
So Grant ordered it closed down, but there was a high-ranking Union officer who was smuggling cotton, and he decided to open it back up and transfer troops there, mostly colored, so they could help him smuggle his cotton without them realizing it.
Wow.
So they shouldn't have even been there.
That's crazy.
And then, see, there's another thing. Up in Franklin, some black troops up there had kicked Bedford's behind up there, and he was angry.
Wow.
So there is a good point about him taking it out on the colored troops as vengeance for some of them daring to get in his butt. Wow. Interestingly enough, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. He got tried for murder 2 times as a civilian for killing white folk. But he was so rich he got off. But then there's another interesting side. The Freedmen's Bureau ran a study and they found out, guess who was the highest paying employee for the former slaves in the South. It was Nathan Bedford Forrest. At least he knew it would help out to pay, to get good help.
Right. Wow.
But, it's a thing. And he got back into politics and became quite a outside influence on what happened in D.C. eventually. So, you can go kill all the colored folk you want. And you get a statue put up in a park downtown in the city.
But like you said, the white people would take it and make him still into a hero he's still acknowledged by the state of Tennessee as being a hero. I mean, they celebrate his birthday still in the state of Tennessee.
No, but they indicted him on 2 separate occasions for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Beat somebody to death with a wooden club one time because they got in a dispute over a woman. And another somebody he killed off of a gambling debt.
I also read where he killed 2 people for killing his uncle. 2 white men.
Nothing ever happened with that, but I mean, bottom line is he got indicted on 2 separate occasions for murder.
Mm-hmm.
But you make that person a hero. Andrew Jackson got charged with murder a couple of times. But he became president. Everybody loved his homicidal behind.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about this. I mean, America is a very violent place.
It recently was a frontier location where no quarter was asked, none was given. You had an indigenous population that turned out to be some of the best light horse cavalry in the world history.
Mm-hmm.
They were dangerous, Native Americans, and it was everything goes. Save one bullet for yourself, don't get captured. So America came up with the no quarter asked, none given. Ulysses S. Grant was known as Unconditional Surrender Grant, starting off early in the Civil War with what he did in Tennessee. So the U.S. thinks in terms of totalitarian conduct, either or, no in-betweens. Kill them all or subjugate them.
Wow. I would ask you about this. I mean, you're a person, you're a lawyer, a judge, very astute about the situation. And we're looking at what's going on with black people and our relationship with the police. And we saw what recently happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Charlotte. It's like every week there's a new case of some black person getting shot by the police. I mean, what happened out in California with the person who didn't have anything. He was, I guess, mentally ill or handicapped, and they killed him. The black man.
But you see, here's one difference.
Okay.
You have cell phones that can record this stuff, and you also have a situation where the news media has found it generates ratings, so they go out cherry picking the most atrocious situation they can find, which may not be the most atrocious, and they pick one out of several hundred to hype on the media so they can run it, and they get good ratings off of it. And people go, oh my God, isn't it awful what they did? And then some of it's not good either. There was one where they got upset because they pepper sprayed this little 15-year-old girl. So when CNN played the video from the body cam from one of the cops, they started off with the spraying rather than what led up to it. The little girl needed somebody to take a belt to her unruly behind with what she was doing. What happened? She runs through a light on a bicycle, collides with a car, does some damage to the guy's car, at least that's part of the allegation. They know she's only a child. They're going to call her mother. You're supposed to notify your parent. You're also supposed to get the information because there's a question as to who's at fault in the accident. She wasn't hurt. Nobody was hurt, but there was property damage. The police weren't witnesses, so they have to secure the witnesses. So she decides, I'm leaving. You can't make me stay. So she decides to leave the scene of the accident. She gets snatched off her bike by her backpack, and she's screaming and hollering and kicking and carrying on, talking about what she isn't going to do. They handcuff her, put her in a squad car. She's just acting a general fool, and funny to me almost, if you don't stop, you'll be sprayed. She's just acting a fool, so they spray her. It's good for her. She needs to know their consequences. Children should not act like that. You know, that wasn't a case of inappropriate police conduct. That was an inappropriately raised and out of control child. And then you saw a mother. The mother everybody thought was the child in question, but that was the mama. And then talking about how badly that daughter got done. Well, what do you want them to do? They didn't shoot her, and she would not constrain herself to appropriate behavior, so they sprayed her. You know, hey, that's what that stuff's for.
Wow.
Now, some of this stuff is just like, okay, hype is hype, and wrong is wrong. So the two of them can go either way.
Boy, you look at the case in Oklahoma where the woman, the white cop, shot the man. She claimed that his window was down, but his windows...
Well, okay, let's talk about her. Do you hear what Trump said about her?
No, I didn't hear.
Trump's quote is, I think, what did he say? He said she was a coward. And she choked. She didn't act appropriately. He said that. I think she was wrong. She choked.
Wow.
She didn't have the fortitude necessary for the job. And they fired her, which they should have.
But were they convicted, though? That's the thing.
You know, put your hands on the car. Hands up, walk to the car, put your hands on the car. Remember, he's the one looking for the police because he's got difficulties. So she chokes and shoots him. Trump said that. He said he thought she was wrong. What did Hillary say? Just contrast it. See, Hillary was being politically correct. We can't say anything bad. Well, she's a woman, and we can't talk about Trump just like to him. You know, you want to be in here, you ain't fine. You know, and I ain't going, oh man, wow, we whoopee, you sure fine. You want to get in this? Hey, you choked. You pulled out. Which is exactly what it looks like she did.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to try the woman. And I saw what I saw. And I'm listening to the helicopter pilots make all this commentary about that smell black, wonder what he did wrong. Hell, they don't even know that his car was down. He's trying to get help for his stalled car, and some white motorist says that's a suspicious looking Negro. Am I thinking of something? That debate that I was badly offended by. Now, H.T. Lockett, rest his soul, Otis Higgs, rest his soul, myself, some other black judges. We had to endure from the 70s when we started becoming judges. I didn't get to be one until the 90s, but, you know, these were my mentors. We had this big problem with 29-year-old white attorney and Mr. Andrew Thompson, who is a 78-year-old black man, and he's going, Andy, and Lockett would say, I tell you what, if you call him Andy again, I'm going to have you removed from the courtroom. I'm going to ask Mr. Thompson if he'd rather be called Mr. Thompson or Andy. If he says Andy, then all right. If he said he'd rather be called Mr. Thompson, I'm going to lock you up for 10 days for contempt. See, and we all went through that. I'd take somebody and put them behind, you know, take them in lockup. They can't seem to say Mr. Mrs. or Ms. or Doctor or Sir. You don't have that. I called everybody with a title and by their last name. You can too. It's insulting. And then like our president, Barack Obama, he just got in. They had a town hall meeting back in 2008. They had this woman. She said, my name is something like Mary Thompson. I'm 86 years old. And I never thought I'd see a black man president in my life. I'm so proud, Mr. President. And Obama, of course, having no black history in his soul, instead of saying Mrs. Thompson, which would have let that woman die happy, said, Mary? I said, you low down cretin' you. You call that woman by her first name. And she, for somebody to call her Mrs. somebody outside of church for her whole life. And then, getting back to the debate, Trump said Secretary Clinton, Madam Secretary, Secretary of State, former Senator Clinton, and she was going down, 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 down. There's no damn respect.
Wow.
See, it's the small things like that I look at and determine how somebody really thinks about you. Do you think she thinks of a black man as Mr. or is it Bobby?
That's a good question. Wow. Well, I asked you about the Charlotte situation with the Keith Lamont Scott, the guy who was shot, and people say he had a book, he didn't have a gun. Now, I saw the witnesses, they said there was a white guy, a white cop with a bald head that shot him. But now they're saying it's a black cop that actually shot him. But other witnesses said it was a white cop.
Well, I don't know. It's up in the air and it's questionable. It looked like an overreaction. I've seen white people waving guns around in their hands, and the police solicitously did everything they could to get him to drop the gun, which he winds up doing. And then same situation, a black man, they want to go shoot him thinking he may have one. You see, we have to get home at night. No, when you took this job, getting shot's part of the job description. Or the possibility of it. It's drop it and seeing if you can pursue that versus shoot him. You see, I don't know. I wasn't there. As far as what witnesses say about shooting incidents, look at the one down in Dallas where at first they put it out that there were multiple snipers acting together to shoot all those cops at that rally. Actually, what they were probably recording is echoes from the gunfire bouncing off of those tall buildings. And a bunch of scared folk out there not really realizing what they heard.
Yes, sir.
With recounts of incidents are very unreliable. I have seen video recordings of shootings that were inadvertently recorded while they went down. The matter's on trial. The witnesses haven't seen the video recording, and they testify all over the place, even though they're supposed to have been right there.
Wow. Well, Judge,
and Hollywood gives us the wrong impression. Why did they shoot him 4 times? Well, if you justified in shooting the person 4 times may not be enough. I had a murder trial in my courtroom. It was an accident, but the DA's office said that these men who were there in their late 40s still had an animosity from when they were 16 and got in 2 or 3 fights in high school, even though they'd been working together in the intervening 30-some years and were friends. He had a brand new 45, and everybody else had Smith 19s or 66s, those 357s, and everybody was showing everybody the pistol. It was after the holiday. Somebody was videoing it, and you can see this guy accidentally get shot. you see this small little dark spot in the center of his chest, and it's spreading, and he's saying, man, you just shot me, fool. I told you not to play around with that damn gun. Man, you killed me. And he walks from a point where he gets shot to a motorcycle about 10 feet away. He's sitting on the motorcycle seat sideways. So, man, you killed me, man. What's going to happen with my kids? Who's going to take care of my wife and children, man? Oh, man, look what you did to me. Man, I can't see, man. Damn. Oh, hell. And then he collapsed.
Wow.
So, logically, if you get your circulatory system completely destroyed as a human, you will remain fully conscious for 10 seconds. You lose your vision, and then you faint, never to wake up after 15 seconds. Do you know what happened to him?
What?
The 45 round that hit him was a federal 230 grain expanding bullet, and it destroyed all 4 chambers of his heart. He had no heart that was responsible.
Wow.
But he walked 10 feet, and we used a stopwatch, and it was 10 seconds before he started complaining about he couldn't see, and then after 15 seconds, he slides off. It was a federal 230 grain hydroshock, which is supposed to be, by recorded incidents, about the most effective ammunition you can use in that type of pistol. Or he shot him in the head. Well, he died immediately. No, he died about 10, 12 minutes later. Or there was one even, they charged this man with first-degree murder because he managed to basically a Circle K, and this guy who was a troublesome drunk came in there, crashed the place, threatened to come back and shoot him. The guy, self-defense-wise, shoots him. But then they say he took the victim's own gun and shot him in the head twice. Well, Circle K had a video they'd taken to corporate headquarters, and nobody knew about it until the second, third day of trial. And defense showed it. Guess what it showed? The guy is shot. He's sitting there up against all the canned goods with them all over the floor. He pulls his 38 out, and on the video, he said, "Fool, you done got yourself killed. You might as well go and finish the job." He takes the 38 out on the video and shoots himself right in the damn temple.
Wow.
But you see, he was shot in the head twice. So the DA's office was assuming that he must have shot the dude again to make sure he was dead. They didn't know that the guy had shot himself the first time. So they wanted to argue before we got through the whole video about, well, he shot him the second time. Let's look at the whole thing. So this dude sort of goes still, like he ain't killed himself. And then he revives. And you can hear him. He said, "Fool, you can't even kill your own damn self." And he takes the gun and shoots himself in the head, same place, the second time.
Wow.
So see, you see the movie, somebody throws a knife and he goes, "Oh," and he drops.
Right.
You know, they got a lot of that in Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington. The Asian guy throws knives, and when they stick in the guy, he collapses immediately. You know, the guy gets shot one time, and he dies. In there, a woman shoots this guy, bad guy, with a 44-40. And he immediately dies. Oh, he's dead. No, it was a 44 rimfire, a notoriously weak round. She shoots him and he dies instantly. You know, with something like that, unless you hit somebody in the central nervous system, they ain't dying immediately.
Wow.
Sometimes you get a situation where often when there's a shooting, the shooter shoots the victim and nobody notices anything, including the victim. So he shoots again, I just shot this dude. Is he Superman? Not nothing. Particularly with stabbings. You get a professional knife killing, they stab the person 1 or 2 times. Usually they go for the kidneys and then they go for something to wreck the heart. The person may live for quite a few minutes, but he's dead. An amateur stabs the person, he doesn't see anything. The guy's acting like nothing happened. Why? Because the mechanism is bleeding to death. This guy has not had time to bleed to death. What does this do? Superman stabs him again, nothing happens. Stabs him again, nothing happens. Stabs him again. Stabs him 15, 25 times.
Wow.
Finally, he starts, rapidly hemorrhaging until he faints. You see, but everybody looks at it in terms of what you see in the movies or on TV. It isn't like that in real life. In the military, most people that are shot don't die. So, they even have a military saying, bullets kill a lot of people, but only high explosive kills enough.
Wow.
Every war that they've had since Napoleon's time, 95% of the battlefield casualties are from artillery, not rifle.
Wow.
So, it's all in the perception. You've been watching TV or the movies, they've been on for 100-some years, and they've been pushing this myth, so that's what everybody thinks is a reality.
Wow. Well, Judge, I learn something new every time I talk to you, man, and something to read.
So you have to deal with what the media has done to us in terms of our perceptions of reality.
Yes, sir. Well, Judge, I want to thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
And then, see, we've got some trouble that's going to come from some of these veterans coming back.
Okay.
In World War II in the Pacific, the average age of an American private in the military in the Pacific War was 19 years old. In Europe, it was about 25.
Wow.
The average time that a soldier or a Marine spent in combat in World War II in the Pacific was, guess what? Just 19 days. In Europe, it was 32 days. But now you've got all these people because of the shortage of troops and the fact that we've got a professional army, Marine Corps, and National Guard and Reserve. We have maybe 500,000 men that we can call on for handling worldwide commitments. So you've got these people that have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tours of a year at a stretch, where they are in a hot fire zone where they can get shot at the entire time they're over there. And nowadays, with these red dot sights and what's going on, they actually see the target, put the dot on him, squeeze the trigger, and see him drop.
Wow.
Used to be, in World War II, for example, they found out in studies as to infantry action, if you've got 40 men in a platoon, maybe 5 of them actually tried to aim at somebody, and maybe 15 fired in the general direction of the enemy without even trying to aim. And in the balance of them, you'd have 5 or 10 standing right next to other people to shoot, and they never fired around the whole time the fight was going on. Now you got all these people who actually did it. And see, they have a saying in the military. The first kill is difficult. They have nightmares. The next one is easier. For some people, it becomes too easy. So you got a lot of people coming back who've done a lot of killing. You've got some things about gender that are coming out of there. You put women in combat units, you've got a prehistoric and historic mandate. Women are protected by the men of their own tribes. You don't let a woman take a bullet like you do. So now you got women in a position where they're supposed to take a bullet like the guys. What's that going to do for everything when that comes back from overseas?
Wow.
A different way of looking at stuff. I noticed when I was on the bench, all this domestic violence. it's just awful. But see, I got taught women are not as strong as boys. Boys should never hit girls. About that time, the feminists were saying, you should never say that. Women are just as strong as girls. And see, they had Mortal Kombat number 27, and 3 or 4 of the alter egos would be kicking behind would be girls. So you got these young boys playing the video games, and they'll just as soon pick a girl to fight with as a boy. And, you know, you had Xena, Warrior Princess, on about that time, with Hercules coming right after. Kevin Sorbo playing the part, did pretty well. That was a nice, interesting series, but, you know, she kicked 4 or 5 dudes in the behind to work up an appetite for breakfast.
Right.
So these guys were into this. Boys are as strong as girls, and the feminists were saying you shouldn't say that. So, you know, guy gets out of hand, you punch him. Girl gets out of hand, you punch her too. A lot of this domestic violence comes as a result of gender equality, not in terms of just legal equality, equality of opportunity, but just because they're all supposed to be equal. You know, I used to collect rifles. I had some elephant guns, big 500 gib, 505 gib, 470 Nitro Express, 460 Weatherby. I'd be out there on the West Coast, and one of these feminists would be hollering about, you know, men can't do anything women can't do. So, well, what about tickling big game? Well, you can get a big gun, okay? You know how to shoot? Yes, my daddy taught me to shoot. She shot maybe a 22. So 22s, you can put butt on your chin and won't even feel it. You take a 12-gauge shotgun, a light one, that's 38, 40 pounds of recoil. I'll give her a 460 Weatherby with the muzzle break off, 160 foot-pounds of recoil with what I loaded up. Shoot this. And she's laying down on the ground crying with blood coming out of her nose. I said, I thought you could handle it. See, it makes a difference. It's the yin-yang thing. You know that yin-yang symbol?
Yes, sir.
There's a black teardrop where the big part's on the bottom, and at the top there's a white teardrop where the big part's at the top, the little tail's down by the big part, and vice versa.
Yes, sir.
In other words, there are things that women can do, men can do a little of it, things that men can do, women can do a little of it.
Yes, sir.
But it's a balance. See, we want to forget that. You got a 50-50 chance of being male or female when you're born. I mean, don't get mad. One of your children may be the opposite sex. So there is a perception somehow or another that white men ran everything, and a lot of the white women hated them for that. And then they looked at black women as role models because black women could control their men. That's a product of slavery. 43 years ago, I was working for this Washington think tank as an intern. I was reading what they call the slave pamphlets on microwave film in the Library of Congress. One of the secrets that the slave owners would pass around about slavery is the way to successfully own and control slaves is to let the Negro women do it. They will raise their sons and daughters to be good slaves. They will keep the black men in check for you.
Wow.
And a lot of you hear sisters say, you know, I got to tear him down to manageable size. You know, he need to be brought down to his manageable size. Need to tear him into manageable pieces. He think he's all this and that. And you got this thing going on in our neighborhoods where the women are always trying to tear down the men. The men grew up in a family household, if you could call it a family, where the women were all talking about they were dogs, so they would start thinking of the dog-loving mama as the female equivalent, which is that B word that they use. I'm assuming this is on radio, so we shouldn't say this because of FCC. You know, the bees and the hoes, you know. That's where they get it from. Their mama's, girl, you know, all of them, they ain't nothing but dogs, honey. I hear you. See, it's just this thing in our neighborhoods, you know, they become matriarchies because the women that were respectable women, married, had families, maybe divorced, widowed after World War II, Korea, whatever, back when, you know, there were women in the neighborhood who had 12, 14 kids by 9 different babies' daddies, and they just didn't care. And they kept having 14 kids, 9, 10 kids. And now a whole lot of the black race has a mama that had 9, 10, 15 children with 10 or 11 baby daddies. So they like somebody that looks like their mama, and they act like what their mama taught them to act like. And the mama didn't like men, or black men particularly. Let's tear them down to manageable pieces. So it's a whole kind of sickness going on. We got problems. And then we've got this thing where, oh, you have to be, just think of yourself. You have so much to offer. You can't afford to do this. Be reasonable. Don't rock the boat, you know, that kind of thing. So where do we go? The males act unmanly. The females act like they're trying to be men, even if they aren't homosexual, which is their business. Whatever you want to do behind closed doors, that's your business. But, you know, there's this whole attitude about men should be cowards and learn to be emotional. That's dangerous. You know, everybody just about, unless you're a vegetarian, you like hamburgers, hot dogs, steak. You know, some people like seafood. Mm-hmm. Get the idea we're the apex predator on the planet Earth. We kill and eat anything we want to eat. Some of us even kill and eat other people.
That's true. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, if you're the best killer and predator on the planet, that says something about your nature. And to run around namby-pamby-poo little Pollyanna type fool and forget this nature. You know, you're scared of tigers and lions and bears, but we're more into what they do than they are. Great white sharks, you know, they are an endangered species because of what we do. We're saving polar bear, lions, and, you know, trying to keep genetic diversity out there, because guess what? We screwed them all up, and we killed them all off. So what's that say about what our nature is? And you want to all of a sudden act like we're nice little vegetarian cows? You know, like, hey, it don't quite work that way. And his sisters always get mad at, yeah, he a dog. He got all them women out there. Well, you know, nobody's getting married these days. Women don't want to. And they've made it so the way they've raised their boys in such a sissified, unmanly fashion, the boys don't go to school. For the last 10 years, white, black, brown, red, yellow, only 28% of each year's high school graduates are boys. So I guess so few of the boys get to college. You know, and the colleges, 4-year colleges and universities in America with all races and ethnicities, 68% of the undergrads are female, 62% of the grad students are female, you know, so on each level there are far more girls on that level than there are boys. So I guess since there are fewer boys on that level going around, maybe the girls need to share them. So they can become a herd bull and they can be cows in the herd. Cows don't go around recruiting bulls to go screw. The bull screws the cows in the herd. What's that joke? A young bull is talking to his dad. They're standing on the side of the hill, and he said, Dad, all those cows down there, do we get to deal with them? He said, yeah, we do, son. We're bulls. They're cows. He said, well, Dad, let's run down there and grab one or two. He says, no, son. Let's walk down there slowly and do all of them.
Yes.
It's a joke. Women don't get that, but they're making it a once again reality. You know, Solomon with his harem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ramesses II had 1,000 wives. You know, the Holy Quran says you can get 4 wives and unlimited concubines to the extent that you can afford.
Mm.
There are Mormons who got these big harems. You know, the Europeans look at Americans as hypocritical idiots when they get off because, oh my God, he had a mistress.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is he sick or is he normal? If he's not sick and he's normal, he's got a mistress. The wife doesn't want to get worried all the time. And how many guys tell the truth that you know that are married talking about they can't get any from their wife? Young man, don't worry about getting married, man. You get married, you love her, tell you what, forget getting it because she ain't going to give it to you after a few years. And then, some years ago, brother, I'd go around and talk to these radio stations all over the country. WFOOL.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bobby. Just take care of your thug week. Call in. Tell Bobby if you got a thug at home. Ring, ring. Yeah, this is Bobby. Lucille, you on there? Am I on the air, Bobby? You on the air, Lucille? Bobby, I just love your show. Lucille, you got you a thug at home? Yeah, Bobby. He's so fine. He look just like Denzel. You know, all my friend girls, they so jay. Well, you let him go to work to make no, Bobby. I want him fresh so when I get home from work, he can smooth me out. We got another caller. This Lucille? Yeah, Bobby, this Lucille. I'm white, but I like me some thugs, too. They so excited. Sitting in an airport lounge reading an Ebony magazine or want anything else better to do. And I was a black female PhD, wrote an article addressed to sisters generally about how exciting thugs were. Get you one, girl, you have no idea what you're missing. You get a chance to get masculinity, but you're in control because you pay the tab, you write the check. So you can get it without any of the downside of some dude trying to be in control of you. It's sick.
Wow.
But that's where we are, man.
Yes, sir.
But I know that kind of stuff offends people, but you know, I've always been known for not worrying about the toes I step on unless it's in polite society and it's a place to be polite. But, you know, people are dying in the streets. Black lives matter. Yeah, all lives matter. But in our society, some lives matter a little bit more than others. So it's time for black lives to matter as much as any other.
Yes, sir.
That's basically what it is. And that's dangerous. You know, your son, your brother, your father, your lover, your husband could get gunned down at any moment just because he was DWB, driving while black.
Mm.
You know, it's a reality. Last hired, first fired.
Well, yes, sir.
See, it hasn't gone anywhere. That sometimes it's not as obvious, but if you know what you're looking at, it hasn't gone.
Mm.
It has not gone anywhere, and the problem still persists in our society, and we need to do what we can to ameliorate its ancient effects and keep these things from happening in the future. Yo, man, it's wrong what's going down, man. They be jacking us, man. We got to take care of business and get on top, so we can't be done that way.
Well, Judge Brown, I want to thank you once again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us, to share these jewels, these gems. And actually, people love to hear from what you got, and love to hear all the things you have been saying so far. I get a lot of positive feedback from people saying they really respect you. They didn't realize you was this type of person, intellectual of this caliber, and also a person with such a sound moral compass. And they want the masculinity back. They want the alpha male, the black alpha male, to make an appearance and to stay around. So I get that from a lot of people.
I appreciate it.
And so we appreciate you.
Fall 2017 is supposed to be True Verdict with me back on the air. It's syndicated.
Oh, congratulations.
But into a problem with CBS trying to do a blackball thing because I'm a straight black man. They don't like that. And when I talk about duty, honor, respect, obligation, and accountability and responsibility, they don't want that said. They kept coming to me over and over about, will you stop saying that? No. And will you please stop that crazy thing about protecting womanhood and promoting manhood? Women don't need to be protected.
Wow.
Oh? Well, you go tell that to the next woman that gets brutalized through domestic violence. You tell her that.
Wow.
See, so I got told long ago, you don't have very long on the planet, so do something so they'll remember you as long as possible for something good after you've been gone.
Mm-hmm.
Do it so when you get M.I.A, people come up to you and start thanking you for stuff that you did 25, 30 years ago. I go some places now and people come up to me, you don't remember me. I used to wait on tables. You'd come in there, you always would talk to us, blah, 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 where other people turn their nose up. But that's 35 years ago. 20 years ago, yeah.